Verbeek speaks up after the trade deadline. Ducks are singing the blues, and much more on this episode of Locked On Anaheim Ducks.
You're Locked On Ducks, your daily podcast on the Anaheim Ducks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome. Thanks for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if their first $5 bet wins. Go get that $150 with one $5 bet win. My name is Kyle Carr. I'm a lifelong Anaheim Ducks fan, and I've been covering collegiate sports for multiple years, including college hockey. Today, we're going to be talking about the Anaheim Ducks. The trade deadline did pass earlier today at noon Pacific, and the Ducks didn't really do a whole lot. So we're going to cover what Pat Verbeek had to say about that, and then we're going to discuss today's game against the Blues, and then we're going to get into the week ahead and what the Ducks have in store coming up next week. But to get into things, let's talk about Pat Verbeek. So the only trade really that happened, there was two trades at the end of the deadline after the Husso trade. We had Brian Dumoulin, which we talked about yesterday, heading off to New Jersey. And then today, or later in the night, yesterday, we got an announcement that we received Killington from the New York Islanders for future considerations. We all love that player, future considerations, always a great trade. So looks like the Ducks did fill in their seventh defenseman. He was not there in the game tonight as they fielded the defense that we've been, as fans, looking for with Mintyukov and Zellweger in the lineup. So kind of the comments that Pat Verbeek had to say about the trade line, or the trade deadline, if you will. Main thing he had to say was that he wanted to give the team as much time as they could to win. He kind of had the trade for Dumoulin locked in previously to the road trip where they went to Edmonton and Vancouver. But due to how the team was playing with Dumoulin on the roster, he wanted to give him that extra chance and kept the rhythm going. So that's why he held off on that trade. They come back from the road trip, and as everyone was expecting, Brian Dumoulin headed out. Verbeek even stated that one thing that he was really hoping to not trade Dumoulin, like it was one of those things where he felt he really liked the player and the fit that he had in Anaheim. However, it was taking away from Zellweger and Mintyukov playing important minutes, and especially down this stretch with the potential playoff chase that they're in. He wants them to be playing in meaningful games and meaningful minutes and fill up the whole roster with those younger squads. So a little bit of a heartache as we did have to leave, or the Ducks had to let Brian Dumoulin go. But looking forward to the future, it's a pretty big move now that Zellweger and Mintyukov get to fill up in the roster. As we saw tonight, they were both on separate pairs, but played really well. Unfortunately, we'll get into it. Didn't come up with the win, but definitely like some of the stuff I saw, especially with Zellweger on the ice as he was added onto the power play tonight. One of the big topics everyone was talking about, I was one of them talking about it, John Gibson leaving the Ducks. And it's been on the table for multiple years now. It's the Gibson and Zegras rumor mill. It's always churning around this time. There's half the camp says yes, they're going. Half the camp says no, they're not. They love it here. They don't love it here. They want new view. They love the Ducks. It's always up and down. And today it was sold to us and we saw the solution. Gibson and Zegras are still Anaheim Ducks. Zegras playing pretty swell tonight. Would have liked a little bit more points out of him, but, not too bad. And then there was a little bit of movement in the minor leagues. People were a little stressed out that they sent, they had Husso down in the AHL, and they didn't call up him or Dansk. And then Colangelo had to go down due to the rules with the trade deadline that whenever a player is on the roster before the deadline and once the deadline passes, if they are not considered on the AHL squad when it comes to the playoffs for the AHL, which the Gulls, again, are most likely going to, they are always a pretty solid playoff team. They had to go down there and stay down there so that when the playoffs do start for the AHL, and if the Ducks are not in the NHL playoffs, those guys can go play. So those movements had to happen. And then Husso gets called back up to cover for Dostal as the word came out that Gibson is out right now because of the injury that occurred to him in Vancouver. But overall, he's doing pretty good. He's day to day, nothing too major. Just a little bit of, from my understanding, probably a concussion protocol because it did look like he hit his head pretty nasty on that collision. So not too much worried about Gibson right now. When it came to the Gibson trade, what Verbeek had to say was that he had some offers. There were teams that were hunting. He's got a lucrative contract because there's only so much time left on his term, and the price tag isn't too bad for the type of goaltender that you would get if you were to get a John Gibson. However, when he looked at the overall team and the future of the team and the success of the team, none of the trades that were offered or that he could have gotten really made sense. He doesn't think that it was worth getting rid of the good tandem that Dostal and Gibson have right now. They've been backstopping this team. They've been helping keep the team in this race and going from 59 points last year to now 61 so far with still 20 games left. It's a big deal. So smart on him to not get rid of Gibson. I, as a fan of hockey and a fan of Gibson, who, when I think of the players, I think of, everyone wants that Stanley Cup, and it would be awesome to see Gibson on a really high contender. But I do love seeing Gibson in a Ducks sweater, so not too upset about that trade. Another thing that Verbeek mentioned within his statements during the game today and post the trade deadline is that he is really impressed with how the team is performing right now. He loves the way the tenacity of the team. There hasn't been a lot of giving up in games. They've been having a lot of comeback wins towards the last couple months, and then even the wins that they had the lead in, they kept surmounting on it, keep piling in. Basically just a big, resilient type play style that he's been noticing within the locker room. Like I said, not really showing signs of quitting, and they've just been battling even at the end of the games, even when they're tired, even when it seems like it's out. There haven't been a lot of blowouts against the Ducks since pretty much February, since the Four Nations break. So really good to see. Good to see that the GM does have confidence in the squad that he has out there right now. I'm sure some people would have liked to see a little bit more movement from Verbeek. I don't really think there's much that they could have done other than Fabry possibly being a piece to move. The pieces that he had, he moved, and he locked in the guys that he's got, and he's got future draft picks coming in as well. So overall, I think Verbeek did a good job. I wouldn't give him an A+, but I wouldn't give him a failing grade either. So, like a good C+. He was average. He did his job. So that, speaking of not quitting and not giving up, though, tonight's game against the Blues, kind of a heartbreaker. We'll talk about that coming up after the break. Stay tuned. When the game tips off, the NBA action is getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to get on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. That's right, same-game parlay. Cash up that money. I like using the FanDuel live betting feature because, especially when it comes to basketball, I'm not that biggest fan. I'm not a big basketball guy. College basketball maybe, but when it comes to the NBA, I'm a little bit tuned out. But then when I go on to FanDuel, I see the live bets going down. I see what games are on TV. So I start getting in the action, start making those bets with the live betting feature. So right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit fanduel.com to join today. That's fanduel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, guys, welcome back. So the Ducks take on the Blues tonight after the trade deadline. They've got their squad locked in, and it was a weird one. It was a weird one. Right off the hop, the Blues came, kind of got a weird first goal. It was a little, it hit the elbow of one of the defenders, Ducks defenseman, and just popped a little bit low on Dostal's glove. He got a little bit on it, but unfortunately, it popped in a little bit, just kind of squeezed right through or trickled through, as they say. But then Ducks come back. They get a power play due to a delay of game, and finally, they pop in a power play goal. This is one of the things we were talked about yesterday. The special teams has been a little bit abysmal, especially when the Ducks are the ones with the man up. But tonight they get one. When it went in, it looked like it was Lacombe who scored it. He from the blue line, whipped a nice shot through. It was basically a seeing eye puck. Sam Colangelo right in front, causing the traffic. Either way, if it hit him, it looks like it barely grazed his glove, but either way, Colangelo is the reason that puck went in. He completely took the eyes off of Binnington. So good to see the pinball wizard at it again. That's 3 goals in 3 nights. Colangelo is just on fire right now. And you heard it right. Lacombe was the one who whipped it in. So that means he is still has his points going for him. Last night, or the game against Vancouver, did end his point streak. However, he does have 10 points in the last 7 games. So Lacombe's fire continues. Now we got Colangelo heating up. The young kids are cruising. Looks like 23 is the age to be on the Anaheim Ducks right now. The only issue, Kyrou, Holloway, and Shen. That line was causing mayhem for the Ducks. They could not break it out whenever those guys were on the ice. It seemed like the speed of Holloway, the physicality of Shen, Kyrou with his ability to see the ice, they just kept moving the puck around, hemming the Ducks in. I was getting so frustrated. I was yelling at my screen, trying to get the Ducks to get motivated, but it was just one of those games. The Blues kept bringing in a very aggressive forecheck, and it was clearly visibly affecting the Ducks play. You could tell they felt the pressure. They were feeling lackluster, just a lot of miscommunication, misplays, mispasses. And it seemed like the Blues were just taking advantage of every single mistake the Ducks were making. A player that I've been a little concerned about on the Ducks end recently, Troy Terry. Kind of went dry for a few games. I mean, he's been involved, but overall, it seemed like he just kind of wasn't getting on the board. I was literally writing in my notes during the game. Troy Terry just seems like he's got a lack of confidence. He's been trying to make some good plays along the boards and especially on the power play, but it just seemed like there's just, that little lack of confidence. And because he knows he's not scoring, squeezing the stick a little bit more, making a little bit more mistakes, a little hesitant on decisions. Like on one of the power plays, the puck came and you could tell like mid shot, he couldn't decide if he wanted to one-time it or catch it and ended up just kind of flubbing it wide. And then another couple passes just right to the tape of the Blues. And then he comes back and gets 2 assists at the end of the game. Makes a beautiful pass to Vetrano right in the slot. Little kind of looked like the play was about to be broken up, but he picks it up, flings it to Vetrano. Vetrano with a beautiful snapshot. Binnington did not have a chance. Binnington, I swear, if there's a goaltender that I dislike more, I don't know who it is other than Binnington. Jordan Binnington, what he did to the Bruins in 2019, what he did at the Four Nations against USA in gold, and then tonight against the Ducks. This guy, save after save. Sometimes I don't even know how he does it. He's like a third defenseman back there. Anytime the Ducks, after that crazy forecheck that the Blues were putting on, if the Ducks were able to get it out and get it deep into the zone, Binnington was like a third defenseman back there, just moving the puck, gets it right to the D. Those guys would go, it's like the Blues know, as soon as Binnington's got it, both the Ds would just curl to the wall and he would pop it to one of them and they break it right back out. So the Ducks forecheck, unfortunately, wasn't really able to get situated as much as they've been able to in recent games, basically because of Binnington and his ability to move the puck. Even Brian Hayward, John Allers were talking about it on the television broadcast tonight. He's one of the best puck-moving goaltenders out there. So maybe that's why he frustrates me, because he's not on a team that is ever my team that I'm rooting for. So, but towards the end there, the Ducks were down 3-1. Just some unfortunate goals. Power play. Ducks had 5 power plays tonight. Or no, was it 5? Sorry. 4 or 5 power plays. They only capitalized on one of those tonight. So they do need a little bit more work. A lot of puck movement, but not a lot of shots through. They're working the perimeter. But again, there's the internal. One of the power plays, they literally only had 1 shot the entire thing, but there was 18 passes for the 2 minutes. 18 passes, 1 shot through. So that kind of keeps wearing down on the team. But then at the end of the game, I was getting pretty frustrated. They were down 3-1. They were just, it seemed like they were just kind of frazzled. Like I was frazzled right now. They just were not able to manage the puck well, not able to move it as clean and crisp as they should. But then all of a sudden, the last 5 minutes, the Ducks just turned it on. It was that no quit mentality that Verbeek was talking about comes into play, and these guys turned it on. They get the second goal, that Vetrano goal, and unfortunately, right after that, empty net goal for the Blues. Kind of ices it, it seems like. And then Dostal gets pulled again, and off of a crazy bounce down low, Killorn is down right on the far left post and pops one in off of a crazy bounce off the boards. It's 3-4. We're buzzing. It's like 46 seconds left in the game. Ducks get the face off. It goes back into the defensive corner. Terry's trying to battle it out. They finally pop it out. They get it down the ice. And then all of a sudden, off of a shot, it goes out of play. So this allows Dostal to come out of the net, get set, face off, goes, Ducks get it. They whip it down low. They're trying to move the puck. The clock's ticking. It's the last 5 seconds. There's a scramble. It pops down in front of the net. Binnington doesn't have it. McTavish pops the puck into the net. Everyone starts cheering. But the green light went off about a second and a half before. As the scramble was happening, refs didn't blow it dead, but the green light did go. It gets reviewed, and unfortunately, it was proven the time was expired. So there was almost overtime hockey tonight. The Ducks almost got a point, but it just wasn't enough. I wish with all my heart that they would have used that type of effort in a lot more of the second half of the game. The second half was just Blues up until about that last 5 minutes. I would love to see that aggressiveness from the Ducks and a lot longer in the game. It seems like they had it, then they kind of got out of it, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we got to do this, and then it finally clicks in. So a little more sustained pressure, a little more of that aggression that they were able to do with the 6-on-5. Would like to see a lot more of that in the second and beginning of the third period. But other than that, it was really cool to see the Ducks almost come back. Obviously, a point would have been nice, but that kind of tenacity, that kind of non-quit, like Verbeek said, was really good. So tonight, Ducks walk away with 0 points, 4-3 loss to the Blues. So that's 4 points in the playoff race that the Blues just jumped on them. So a little bit of a bummer there, but we got a lot of games to look forward to next week, so we're going to discuss those coming up next. Welcome back. So, what do we got ahead of this for this Ducks squad? Couple of good games coming up. Not too many conference, not even a single division rival. Couple conference, but other than that, they do play two East Coast teams. Coming up on Sunday at 6 o'clock p.m. Pacific, they're going to be playing the New York Islanders at home. This is one of those games that should be winnable for the Ducks. Then we got Washington Capitals on Tuesday at 7 p.m. also at home. And there is a Leo Carlson bobblehead giveaway at that one, so that should be fun to watch. Away, and then they're heading off to Utah for Wednesday night with the game against Utah at 7 p.m. Pacific. And they'll be back home on Friday against Nashville at 7 p.m. Pacific. So looking at those games coming up, like I said, the Islanders, this is one of those games. It should be a great opportunity for the Ducks to get their feet back and to really kind of get back in that groove of winning. Islanders are one of those teams that they're successful, but they're kind of a boring defensively structured team. And I think this is one of those chances for the Ducks to use that young speed and the transitional play that they've been known for in the last few wins and really bring it on against the Islanders. The Islanders lost one of their big centermen in the trade deadline, so they're going to be a little lackluster, and this is just one of those opportunities for the Ducks to really take advantage, especially after tonight's loss against St. Louis and the comeback, that energy that they did have. Want to see how Cronin takes that energy, takes that play style, and puts it into a full 60-minute game against the Islanders. Washington, this is one of the games I'm worried about. This is a game we do know that the Ducks can play up, and sometimes they show up against the big powerhouses. Washington is the powerhouse right now. With Ovechkin on the goal hunt, the Gretzky goal hunt, and the way that this whole team has been playing as a structured team, honestly, a little terrified of this one. The Ducks do have a great opportunity to apply the same type of defensive structure that they had against the Oilers. When they would lock down Connor McDavid, I think they can lock down Ovechkin pretty swell, especially with the way that everyone knows where Ovechkin's office is. But also a chance for the Ducks to completely blow. So looking for a high-energy game out of that one. Would love to see the Ducks shut down Ovechkin, but as a hockey fan, obviously you want to see that guy getting goals every night. So maybe just one. Give him one. The rest can be all Ducks goals. You know, like maybe get some Chick-fil-A, get 5 goals for the Ducks as they get chicken after 5. So we'll see how it goes. But one of the ones that I'm definitely worried about. And then moving on to Utah, it's an away game, back-to-back after playing Washington. But that fresh mountain air, you know, the Ducks will get back re-energized. And that the barn in Utah, for some reason, I think the Ducks play really well there. And it's another opportunity where the Ducks need to win. They're not the best team up there in Utah. And my fear, I guess, going into that is that they could play down, but definitely a game that the Ducks are in the win column. I see them in the win column for that game. Nashville, this is another one that it can be funky. Granted, it's going to be at home. We know that the Ducks have been doing really good at home. Other than tonight, they've had a great win record at home, especially in the second half of the season. And then having Nashville come in, they're one of the teams that's been so funky this year with all the star power that they brought in, but then the lack of winning success that they've had. This is one of those games that the Ducks, we know they can play up and they can also play down. And they're notorious of giving up stinkers like teams like Nashville. That's just, for some reason, teams like Nashville just completely have the Ducks number. That's how I felt about the Blues tonight. I was a little nervous because for some reason, the Blues, they just There's something about their play style, the way that their structure is. They just shut down the Ducks, and the Ducks get overwhelmed and get flustered, and then they cannot get the win. Nashville's one of those teams. They got big bodies. They're kind of off. It's like I always tell the kids when they're playing youth hockey, like, you got to respect your opponent, whether you think they're a bottom feeder or a good team. You always show up respecting your opponent as if they're the top team in the league. But when it comes to Nashville, I don't know. You don't want to take too much for granted, but you also have to respect the star power that they have. So hopefully that's another W for this team. So some good action to look forward to this week. Couple of, like, 3 out of the 4 games are home games. So if you're out here in Orange County, definitely take advantage of seeing some Ducks hockey here in March. And if not, you can always tune in every day, Monday through Friday, to Locked On Anaheim Ducks. We'll have daily content for you. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with all of your Ducks fans. And you can even check my show out while you're sitting at the Honda Center during intermission. After they do the little bowling or the whatever, the little mites on the ice, check out the show, get caught up, see what's going on. But thank you for making Locked On Anaheim Ducks your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NHL podcast, bringing you the daily league-wide stories that matter with the local coverage you love from Locked On. And I know they've got tons of trade deadline conversations going on the NHL channel. Ducks were a little quiet, but the rest of the league made a ton of noise today. So make sure you check out the Locked On NHL channel. And you can find Locked On NHL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Kyle Carr. Thanks again. Be good out there.